everybody, it's Nina. Thanks for joining me today for a new video where we're going to be creating a project using quite a few different dies and even an embossing folder. We're going to turn some really cool dies into a very custom piece, and I'm going to share different techniques that I used to create the effects on my die cuts. So my hope is that as you watch this video, you'll get ideas for how you can incorporate some of these ideas and techniques into your die cuts, and you can make them step up quite a bit. We'll go from a simple die cut to something really unique and elegant, and it's a lot of fun to customize these things to make them your own. So two of the dies I'm going to be using today are the Budding Branches and Scalloped Birdhouse die sets from Simon Says Stamp's new Cozy Hugs release. I'm going to be using the Birdhouse first. So I've die cut this birdhouse from many different colors of cardstock, and I'm mixing and matching the elements to create a really unique custom look for this particular birdhouse. I'm going to glue everything together with a Simon Says Stamp glue stick, and I just used that in particular because I wanted to be able to fiddle things and shift them around a little bit, and the glue stick, because it stays wet for a bit of time, gives me the chance to do so. So by die cutting this birdhouse from a few different colors of cardstock, I can mix and match and create a really unique look. It looks so much better when you die cut it from multiple colors and create a very unique birdhouse than it would be if you were to cut it all from the same color of cardstock. So definitely do not be afraid to try mixing and matching things to create a look that you're going for. So I have red trim and a red roof on my birdhouse, and I want to add a little bit of a snowy effect on top of any areas that would have been collecting snow. So imagine if this was a snowy scene, where would the snow sit? That's where you're going to want to put your glue so that you can put mica flakes on top. Mica flakes are one of those unique glitter mediums that really does capture the real effect of snow. It's very frosty and they're easy to use. And to help really get that white effect, I use Simon Says Stamp Craft Tacky Glue because it's an adhesive that will dry white. It's not going to dry clear. If you use something that was a little bit more like glossy accents, you'd have more of a translucent effect, but I wanted that full-on snow effect. Okay, now we're pulling out a different set. This is the Friendly Birds embossing folder and coordinating dies. Now I always recommend to die cut your pieces first and then lay them into the recessed areas of your embossing folder. You're going to feel them puzzle piece in. It's very simple to do, and then you just hold it in place with a bit of tape. I'm using Simon Says Stamp very, very low tack tape for this, but any low tack tape would work. You just want to make sure these don't shift as you emboss them. So once I've attached my die cuts into the folder, I'll run this through my die cut machine to emboss those cute little birds, and now we have these embellishments that can go on top of our birdhouse. I want to color them though, so I am going to bring in some Copic markers and add shading to color these that look like chickadees. I just searched for an image on Google to find some pictures of chickadees so that way I had a guide for how I wanted to color these. And if you're interested in the Copic markers that I use to color these birds in, I have them listed below in the video description or on my blog. So just check that out. I basically picked out a few cool grays and a couple of warm and just colored in different sections of the feathers to create some depth. I colored both birds the exact same way, and then once all the coloring was complete, I could go ahead and stick them on my birdhouse. But before I do, I wanted to add a little bit of shading to the birdhouse because this makes it feel more dimensional. So I used sea glass cardstock for the blue color of the birdhouse. And so I picked out a Copic marker that was very similar in shade that I had in my stash, and I just used it to lightly add some shading around the edges of this birdhouse. And as you can see, this makes a huge difference on the finished look, and I love the way it makes this birdhouse feel even more dimensional. I'm going to start gluing the Budding Branches die cuts that I cut out from both Green Leaf and Midnight Green cardstocks from Simon Says Stamp. Two different colors of green, and I cut the two branches with that. I also did trim some of the branches down a little bit so they were a little shorter so I could piece two of them together like I did here. And then for the birds, I used Simon Says Stamp thin 3D foam squares to add just a little pop of dimension for them off of the birdhouse. So they're going to sit on the branches of the Budding Branches die set, and I'm going to embellish those branches with some embellishments so that way they have berries. They do have berries that are die cut, but I wanted them to be red. So I'm going to pull out these Christmas droplets from Holtz, and the red ones are going to be the berries on all of these branches. So I'm just going to go around and glue those little berries on all the different little berries that are actually die cut when you cut this die. I used Simon Says Stamp Craft tacky glue to glue those down, and we'll let that dry while we work on our background. I have a piece of white cardstock here, and I'm just going to ink blend a little bit of cadet ink in the center of this background and fade it out as it goes towards the edges. I'm not really worried about what the center looks like because my birdhouse is going to cover that up. So I'm really just trying to get some nice coverage of ink here. I'm going to bring in a stencil now and lay this over top of my card. After taping it in place, I will bring in some SNOWFALL grit paste and put this on top of those snowflakes. So the grit paste is slightly translucent and it has a gritty texture to it, which is very much mimicking of snow. So once this dries, this is going to have such a beautiful frosty finish, and it's going to match up really, really well with the snow that we created using the MICA flakes. Now, anytime you're using paste, I always recommend that you clean up right away before you do anything else, because these pastes do have a tendency to dry pretty quickly. And then once it dried, I have these nice frosty snowflakes surrounding my birdhouse, which is totally adding to the scene here. I'm going to lay the birdhouse right on top of that snowy background and then fill the center with a cute little heart. This gold heart was from Simon Says Stamp's Nested Heart dies, and I just cut it from some gold glitter cardstock. It's a little touch that makes a big difference. Continuing those MICA flakes, I added just a little bit of snow on the branches because snow would definitely gather there if it was snowing outside. And the only thing left to do was to add a sentiment. This card has a lot going on, so I decided to keep it nice and simple by just taking a sentiment strip from Simon's new Christmas sentiment strip pack, and I'm just using the reverse one to create a nice little greeting along the bottom portion of my card. I just used some foam tape to attach that down right along the bottom, tucked in amongst the branches and the snow. So there you have it. Many different techniques that you can use to embellish your die cuts and create very custom looks that enhance the die cuts and make them completely unique for your card. I hope that the ideas that I shared with you today were inspiring and that you'll use them in your next project with other dies that you might even have in your stash. Now, if you're interested in any of the supplies that I did use today, I do have them linked below in the video description as well as over on my blog, so you can check all that out there. Thanks so much for watching. I will be back soon with more to share with you all, but until then, I hope you have a fabulous day.